All right, we're back on the air. I usually like to get irreverent, but I don't think that's the time right now. So, lots of things going on. Obviously, the COVID, and I don't like to talk about the COVID. Obviously, that's now bottom of the fold, right? Because of what's going on in our country with rioting and race relations. I talked a while back, and I'm probably going to make this brief because I could go for freaking hours about this situation. And I don't think, really think people want to listen to that. But I talked about the handshake being gone, maybe a few shows back. I like to call them shows. You know, producers and grips and scripts. I have to read a script for this, by the way. But I talked about the handshake being gone. And I'm going to tell you right now, folks, no. The handshake's here to stay, and the handshake needs to come back. And I'm going to tell you why. We got people out in the streets. We got rioters, protesters. I'm a protest guy. I believe 1,000% in protesting. That's how our country got started. That's how the civil rights movement took place. That's how women's suffrage. I've talked about suffrage. I'm the one suffering, not the women. No, that's wrong. I'm wrong for saying that, but it's a word you can make fun of, right? Suffrage. What's it even mean? But we've got, it's demonstrations and protests that make the evolutionary changes in America happen. And without those protests, without that push, without that pressure in the balloon, we don't grow as a country. So protests are the lifeblood, are fundamental to who we are and how we operate. That's a given. And I see how protests can evolve into physical confrontations. I don't condone that, but I certainly understand with pent-up emotion and people confronting each other, face to face. I don't know how you distance in a good riot or a good protest. We'll figure that out later. But the point being is, I see how that can bubble up. But what I don't understand, and I'm not going to belabor this point because people, everybody's talking, is how the death of and I call it the very wrongful death of a black man translates or manifests into stealing Nikes. And I saw that picture last night, so I'm not making it up. If you're gonna loot, take the Nikes. Nobody wears Reeboks anymore, right? I don't think so. I'd go Nikes. But are you grabbing the Nikes so you can put them on so you can protest better, you can be quicker, more agile, or they just match your pants? I don't know. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think stealing and looting makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to go back to a time in the 60s, late 60s, when when Ronald Reagan was governor of California and negotiated at Berkeley. I believe it was students and teachers and TAs. There's all kinds of stuff going on there. And he got their people in a room and his people in a room, and they negotiated. What goes on in the negotiations is irrelevant. It's time now. This is a movement, and if this movement wants to be recognized as legitimate, which it is legitimate based on the underlying reasons the movement exists, but you've got to weed out the bad elements in your movement, and then you've got to get some leadership in that movement to come talk to the leaders that you want to have affect change, and have yourself implanted, elevated, voted into those positions so you can affect change. It's time for that. So it's time for this group of protesters to coalesce with a better message. Get rid of the violence, get rid of the looters, and then get some leadership now and come to the table. You've made your point. And this is where, people need to understand how the process moves forward. I don't know. I'm getting really political right now. And I'm just saying, it's important now that we sit down and talk. All right, enough's happened. Let's talk. The point's been made. And I don't want to belittle anything, but I do want to draw the line at illegal activities. And so let's end it at that. Enough of the poli-sci lesson. I would like a whiteboard, though. How fun would that be, a whiteboard? How do you drive with a whiteboard? And is a whiteboard the right? Is it even right to call it a whiteboard now? I don't think it is. I'm wrong for saying it, and I feel badly about that. No, but a whiteboard with some, pens and some things I can mark up. It'd be a lot of fun. Anyway, folks, it's pandemonium out there. Reach across, back to the handshake. I'll wrap it up with this. Instead of shaking your finger at somebody, shaking your fist at somebody, right? Let's shake hands and let's figure out a solution. I'll risk COVID. I'll risk COVID if shaking hands can start to bridge gaps, because we're, rioting and conflict, while it has its place, it does take a toll. So let's think that through.